And
Sorry, the stream should be active now. Sorry about that.
are you there, Ben?
I'm here. Can't hear me?
I can hear you.
I can barely hear on this computer, so I just want to. The audio isn't that good right now. So,
all right, I'll remote in and get the volume turned up for you, but the stream is good to go when we get going.
Okay. All right, I can see everything, but my audio isn't very good. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first order of business is the budget. Craig?
Yes, good evening, everyone. So as a follow-up to the meeting last week, one of the issues that we had talked about was adding in some funds for mulch. And in looking at the budget for this year, we're actually going to take care of that right now. So we're working to make sure that we get all the schools.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So we will be taking care of the mulch out of the budget for this year. So other than that, there were no other line items that changed, unless there are some line items that you would like to change right now before you approve the budget.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Charles, I want to thank Craig and Kathy for this. I had actually reached out to Craig and then to both Craig and Kathy and spent, I don't know how many hours we kind of went through. I was actually looking to see if we could, drive this 284 request down the city, just to even drive home the point, a little further. I think this budget definitely shows a partnership and consideration to the city and the taxpayers. And I said, let's see if we can, we're right there. Let's see if we can find something. Like I said, after hours, 2 different days, we kind of left it where it's at. And a lot of that, well, I'd say probably the lion's share of that reasoning is the uncertainty of the state funding. Because it's lean as it is, which is what Craig had attested to with the hours, and I think we all felt that way. But I just kind of wanted to say we gave it another look, and if we lose a fraction of that state funding, we're going to lose more than that 284 in half a blink, and we'll be below level funded at that point. So, I feel very comfortable with this. And again, I just want to thank everyone, the school administrators, everybody that contributed to this budget. It's a tight budget.
Craig, do you want to talk about the mayor and what the mayor said to you, Craig?
Oh, sure. Yep. So I happened to see the mayor the next day, actually. I was speaking with Mike Hubert, our controller, in his office, and the mayor poked his head in, said he had been watching the meeting the previous night, said that I had done a good job at explaining the various portions of the budget, and that he was pleased that we were with the amount that we were asking. But so yeah, it was good.
Anything else?
I just want to say I appreciate you looking at it again, Joel and Kathy. But I'm really proud to say that the increase is what it is compared to what we needed last year. I do realize as well that we did not negotiate any contracts. So that's this big sacrifice that our employees are making. But also I'm very comfortable that the taxpayers know that we're trying to keep it as minimal as possible. Everyone right now is struggling and we know that. So compared to what we asked for last year, 2,391,000, and this year we're only asking for 284,000, I think is a huge feather in your cap, Craig and Kathy. Thank you.
And I think, Karen, it's worth mentioning, right? I mean, we've over the years, and Jessica, I know, you know, we've stood by each other at the podium, right? Talking about the discrepancies when you look statewide as far as the percentage of funding, and you know, that's why we fought so hard, and those increased requests were what they were, is we're trying to get to that point, and we're not there yet compared to other urban ring and suburban districts in the state with regards to the percentage of local funds. However, I appreciate that this administration and the school committee realizes that, you know, this is not the year to, you know, to look to, you know, to rectify that issue or take another step. But, you know, I think we've got to all kind of pitch in and take a pause and work together on this, you know, to decrease our expenses wherever we can.
Any other discussion on this item?
Craig, I have a question for you on the cuts. But like I said, the number, I'm going to talk about if we can take some of that number that we got saved and, like what Joel said, to reduce this number a little bit more. But the question I like to know, Craig, some of these numbers that's been reduced for this new budget is what is the effect for next year's budget going to look like? Because when I went across each line item, the ones that did take hits took some decent hits, 53,000. You know, there's some decent hits here. If those numbers are, I don't want to use the word right on. Hopefully, there's a little bit of play in them. But what is it looking like for next year? Where if we're going into contracts, and if we don't get state aid, and the taxes for the city can't go up, how bad would that affect us into next year's budget or the year after? Because right now I agree with that. It seems like it's an excellent budget based on today, but how much look into the next year or two did we do to see if we had to cut these kind of numbers? What's it going to do to the school system as a whole, or what would the tax rate be the first and second year coming up?
Yeah. So I think, you know, if we had finished negotiations with the unions, then I think we could have done a lookout in terms of what the impacts are. But the fact that we didn't, it's kind of hard to project out at this point as to what that impact will be. For this budget right now, you know, we're really hoping that, you know, for in terms of a state aid cut, you know, that we're looking at a 1% to a 2% cut. That's what 2%. I'm really hope that's the worst. You know, so if that's the worst, you know, so we're looking at, you know, about a $720,000 reduction that will have to come back, and we'll have to take a look at this. But we still don't know.
458.
Yeah, but so we still don't know what they're doing for state aid yet. So, you know, we really were lean. You know,
So basically, a 1% eats up that increase and then some.
Correct.
You know?
Yep.
Correct.
Tony, anything else?
No, Charlie, I'm just running that all through my mind saying, I agree with Joel said with that savings that we have, we should have some, I'm gonna work with Craig because I'm adamant that I want to try to see what the savings across the board was. We'll have to get Tony involved with water, sewer, trash, electric, because we know that the athletic savings was just an easy number to come up with. But we're gonna talk about, going forwards with the school, but I also look at, my opinion is that the school's not going to open to the end of January. If that happens, we're looking at some more savings coming here. Saying the savings, I think this committee should have exactly what numbers we are saving, where they're saving, and where we're going with them. So where Joel had said, like if it's the 1.5%, 1% eats that whole savings up. But right now, I want to see what the savings are, even by delaying school 2 weeks, but we're going to roll that back in June. So it's kind of a wash. But if we do close for any length of time, I'd like this to be tracked closer. So in January, we could get a report back exactly what was saved over the last 4 months. So we can compare apples, because the only thing that I'm concerned with is, right, Craig, there's nothing else we can really cut from this budget. There was some in here that's got cut quite a bit, and I'm just wondering if we have to go back to cut them, even not this year. If we do next year, it's going to be a really, really rough time going forwards.
You're right. So I think definitely that the budget for next year, when we're doing this a year from now, it's going to be just as bad.
Yeah.
So.
But we'll be able to have the savings for you the end of October. Remember, our budget goes a little bit longer, Mr. Ferreira. So you should know we did athletics, but we could have actually additional savings in athletics as we go into the month of September and October. So we will look at that in October and have those savings for you.
Thank you.
Totaled up, okay?
Yeah. And one more thing, Craig and Kathy, if we had to look into, because I think I just didn't get a chance to go down the garage with Tony to check on our snow removal equipment. If we have to, could we take a vote tonight to take 50 or 60,000? Jess had mentioned at the last meeting. Do we have to vote, Charlie, to take 50 or 60,000 and shift that into an open account wherever we would need it, if it's for, a vehicle for snow removal or a vehicle to transport food? Or could we just, if that instant comes up, could we just come back to Craig, put it on the agenda and take that money? Do we have to vote on that now?
Yeah, no, you have the money here. Yeah.
Okay, Kathy, so we don't have to shift. We can leave it as if we don't need it, we can leave it. Okay, excellent.
Perfect. Yep, correct.
Yeah, it's there.
That's all I have, Charlie. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Any other
Welcome.
other questions or comments? If not, we'll go on to our second, and that is the reopening of schools. Superintendent Crowley, do you want to start this off?
Yes, I'll give you just a brief update of what's happened since last week's meeting. We received from the Rhode Island Department of Education a back to school Rhode Island COVID-19 facilities and physical plant guidance to reopen schools. If any of you saw the press conference with the governor on Monday at 1 o'clock, it was on Monday instead of Wednesday. She is going to send out teams to each one of the school districts from the Rhode Island Department of Health and other people, and they are going to be looking at the schools as far as reopening. There is going to be a checklist, and we're going to receive that checklist, we were told, tomorrow, and we will be contacted by a team to come in, and they will look at each one of the buildings in every single district. Now, it's not an I got you. It's just to look at things like the windows and the ventilation and the placement of desks and things of that nature. And it's all in this guidance, which we'll send out to you and we'll post on the website. So they outlined that for us. I actually volunteered East Providence to be one of the first districts, let them come as soon as possible, because I think that, our schools are ready at this point in time. And if there's any suggestions that they have, I'd like to have time to be able to work on them. But again, it's a checklist and some advice or suggestions. The next thing is that they have established what is known as an educational emergency management team. That emergency management team is almost like the storm emergency management team that all cities and towns have. That team is actually coming. That's the National Guard comprises that team, is coming to visit us at Monday at 11 o'clock to the superintendent, assistant superintendents, and director of facilities. That group of people is supposed to be there to help us in case of an emergency within the districts. We would contact them, they would give us advice, or they would come to the district to help with said emergency. So our first meeting with them is 11 o'clock on Monday. We also received from the Commissioner of Education the protocols for symptomatic people, which we will also post and send out to parents. There is a procedure if someone is identified with COVID-19 and exactly what we have to do as far as procedures to deal with cases within the district. So we have that as well. The rest, I'm going to just turn over to Sandy to talk about briefly where we are within our schools right now in preparation. So Sandy.
Thank you. So just some highlights of the last week. We've been working on identifying the power standards, and we have committees meeting with the different departments at the secondary level to outline the power standards that they'll need to teach this year. The Teaching and Learning Subcommittee is continuing to meet, and they're going to provide a guidance document to the whole district for both in-person and distance learning expectations. We are working on guidance regarding technology and structure your lessons with the different methods of technology we're using. We will be doing a Chromebook pickup starting on September 2nd. It will be done at each individual school. Directions and times will be going out to parents. We're just working on finalizing the dates for each school. And then we'll also use that time, especially with the elementary level, to send out any workbooks like Go Math or the new English curriculum books that students would need to have at home with them. And also headphones and any type of directions that need to go home. We held a meeting last week with all the faculty and staff to update them on the new developments, on the distance learning numbers and possible scenarios for how we can best service students based on the number of students that we have in distance learning. Right now, as of this afternoon, it has changed since this morning. We're at 2074, last I looked. So 2,174 students on distance learning as of right now. We are continuing to meet with teachers and principals on meeting with their staff to discuss both the in-person and distance learning. At the elementary level, we met with the principals this week, and we worked on setting class lists because it's still changing so frequently. We have not been able to finalize them. We will do that on the 31st, but as of this point, one student could flip a class either way. It could mean we need an extra distance learning teacher. It could mean we need an extra in-person teacher, and the numbers just continue to fluctuate, which makes it really hard to finalize those lists. So as of the 31st, right after the governor makes her announcement, we'll be meeting and we'll be finalizing those classes, hopefully at that point. With that said, we've working on going through the elementary schools again to set up classrooms based on the numbers that we have. I think this is our third trip through the elementary schools, and it just keeps changing. Even so much that we were at a school today and 2 students came back in one grade and 1 student left, so that we had to change rooms completely. We had planned on moving a big class to the library, and those 2 students leaving flipped us back into a classroom, and we needed to move the other class into the library. So It's really hard to finalize anything at this point, but we are still setting things up and we are still moving through the buildings, and we'll make adjustments after the 31st when we do finalize the lists. Principals will either have or will be sending out parent newsletters. I know you've seen some of them already go out, but they are in the process either last week or this week of sending out updates. And they're going to be working on creating a presentation for parents on their school procedures. We are also planning a walkthrough with the directors and the principals of the buildings on September 1st. Right now, we're still working on the structure, but we plan to probably split into teams, go through all the buildings, and then offer feedback to the principals on any of the procedures like hallway procedures, entrance and exit, those types of things, so that we have a group that'll do that walkthrough and just offer suggestions. Let's see. I think the biggest thing that we have this week was we are offering a week of professional development to teachers. It is all voluntary. We have 25 different sessions being offered this week. I added up the registrations and we have 1,345 registrations for the different sections of PD. So, I mean, teachers are obviously taking multiple things. Some people are taking something every day. So, we're really proud of that. And then we have 2 sessions next week that are already both maxed out at 30 in each session. So that's ongoing this week. The work continues every day. Principals and teachers are working really hard, and we will be ready when we open.
We also finalized transportation. Actually, Diana has arranged for a bus to come to the CTE. We're going to look at it. We're going to have them demonstrate how they're going to clean the bus, and we're looking at how the placement of the students in the bus. So we'll be looking at that this week as well. She told me today that the routes are pretty well finalized at this point in time, and she's just dealing with some private and parochial school lists. So once we have finalized the number of students that are in person, as I said, on the 31st, then we will be informing parents as to the bus stops and their locations.
Kathy, I have 2 questions. Can you send out when you guys are going to do the bus walkthrough? I'd like to see that myself. Second,
I believe it's Tuesday. Diana, are you on here? It's Tuesday, I believe, at, is it 11 o'clock, Diana?
No, it's Tuesday at 12:30. No, Monday, I'm sorry, Monday, August 31st at 12:30. Okay. Right after the National Guard meeting.
Okay.
If we could just have Sharon send it out to us in case somebody else wants to go. And then second, Diane, I, like everybody, got countless emails and stuff today, but we did not increase the walking distance. I got an email where we kind of took we did not, and we really didn't even discuss that, right, Kathy? I mean, we're good with that.
Yeah, so we went back and forth. I've done like 3 different scenarios regarding the mileage, and right now, given how many children are doing distance learning, we were able to maintain the mileage restrictions as to where they've been. Having said that, when we come back in, if there's any changes in January, we may have to look at that again. But right now, the mileage restrictions are the same, at elementary being 1 mile, middle school being 1.5, and high school being 2.
Okay, thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, Sandy, did you mention video tours of the schools for parents?
It's going to be they're going to do a presentation.
They will.
The elementary principals are doing a presentation, a slide presentation narrated with embedded videos so parents can go through all of the procedures. They're working on that. We want to wait until after the 31st so everything is finalized and we can show them what classes will actually look like.
And will those be posted on the school's website, or will there be a specific time that people have to watch it?
No, they'll be available to watch it anytime, and that's why we're doing presentations that way. So principals will send them out to parents and we'll get them posted.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy, Can we make sure that the parent newsletters are getting to all the school committee members again?
Yes.
That way, like,
Did you get
like
some?
I know I did, and that's why I know what Sandy's talking about, because I got one, but I also got one as a parent too. So I know
Okay.
when, you know, Riverside Middle School's parent walkthrough is going to be. But I think it's good for all school committee members to be able to log on and look at the walkthroughs. I think it's great. So if you could just reiterate to the principals to send all the school committee members,
I will. I will.
so that we have access to that.
I'm sorry, Jessica, were you done?
Nope, I'm good.
No, my question, we're all getting emails and correspondence from different people, parents, staff, etc. I seem to sense some hesitancy or concern about the high school, and with keeping the numbers in the pods and keeping people apart. Can you shed any light on that? The high school seems to be a hot area.
Yeah, so I can say that the high school does not have pods. So that model, and this was a choice that was put out through RIDE, we wouldn't be able to keep the high school in pods because they don't take the same subjects. A ninth grader may have a completely different schedule than another ninth grader based on the subjects that they take. So I don't know exactly what the concerns are. The class size will be low. What we're finishing up schedules now. So every student will have their regular 7-period schedule. It'll be like a 2-day block schedule. So they'll have, I'm not exactly sure, maybe 70-minute classes. One day they'll have period 1, 2, 3, 4, and the next day they'll have 5, 6, and 7, and they'll have an advisory period during there. It looks something like that. We're going to put that schedule out. So there's less transitions during the day. They're only moving classes 4 times. They have worked on separate entrances for different groups of students. We are looking at, I believe, it's almost 700 students that have opted for distance learning, and then it's only 2 grade levels each day. So the numbers, I want to say around maybe 400, just over 400 on any given day at the high school. So they will be spaced out. We will be making sure that they're not congregating in groups. Class size will be small.
It's a one-way. There's an up staircase, or down staircase, Mr. Jonas. So the path, so they're not intermingling. We have set up a pattern there as well.
And we'll be bringing each grade in one at a time so that we can go over, and that's for elementary through high school. We'll be bringing grades in 1 grade at a time for the most part to start the school year so that we can go through all of the procedures with just that grade level and really spend time with them talking about like the expectations, how we need to move through the hallways, washing your hands, which bathrooms you can use. All of those things will be really spelled out on that day for students. So I don't know if there's other specific concerns that they have, but there is a thorough plan for the high school. It's just pods.
Just the numbers of people involved, that's all, and how difficult it might be to keep everybody apart.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at, like I said, 400 at this point in that whole high school at one time. So, I mean, I see the numbers as being very small compared to what we're used to dealing with, which is, close to 1,500 in the building at a time. So I definitely feel like we'll be able to monitor that. And really, there is a personal responsibility that we really need to stress with high school students, that they need to be safe, they need to make good decisions, and all of that we'll be doing. And we'll be there to help them along. The teachers will all be there, and the administration.
And there was a big union meeting today, Charlie, of all the teachers with Nick Shattuck, their president. And I think it went for like 2.5 hours where he answered questions and went over all of this with his staff.
And Sandy, how I know it was on each day when we got the teachers, and how many teachers and people other than students would be in the building? If we look at about 400 students.
Yeah, so we probably, I think we're probably somewhere around 160 as far as staff goes in the building. So all teachers will be coming in on all days except for Wednesday. So the expectation, there are no just distance learning classes at the high school. They'll be doing a mix of both. So they'll be in school 4 days a week. So all the staff would report, and then we'd have the addition of the approximately 400 students.
Sandy, a question. Do we have, what's the, I don't like to use the word consequence, but the result of, a student just, disregarding, the guidance, like, intentionally just disregarding, I'm not speaking of a student that might have other, needs or concerns, but how are we handling that?
So, I mean, I think it's going to be case by case at this point. It's going to be, what is the offense? Is it a first offense? Typically, the way, we would handle any other issues that we would have in school, I would hope that having the conversation with the student, having the conversation with the parent that first time would be enough to correct whatever the issue is. If not, we will address it the way, we would typically address a situation, at the high school level. It's hard for me to say exactly, what, I don't know what the situation, and I don't know what the offense is or how many times, but.
Right. Okay. Just so, like, if there's a mask refusal or what have you, in my opinion, that's, being in the school would be, an option that we're allowing you to choose. And, if under these rules, under these guidelines, and, if you're choosing not to follow those guidelines, then, then you can take option B to distance learning. And I would like to see us definitely take a very firm stance on that, for the sake of others.
Yep. I mean, safety is our priority. We have said that from day one. Everything we have planned has been focused on the safety of students and staff. So we are taking that very seriously. That is the priority, to make sure that
Absolutely
it's safe right now.
Do you see, Sandy, any staffing shortfalls anywhere?
I don't right now. We have some people that aren't able to return, but I think right now we have enough staffing and we are covered, unless, that something different was to come in now. I think we do have a solid plan. We're still working through it, but I don't see a lot of staffing shortfalls at this point.
Any other questions?
Yes, Charlie, I just need to follow up, Charlie, with Sandy, just going forwards where Joel had mentioned, are we gonna have any protocols that we're gonna be looking at? In other words, I find that because there was a couple emails that I received also, today, besides a lot of them, but they said, Mr. Ferrer, if there are kids not wearing a mask, what's the consequences? And I answered it by, I don't know. Because I don't know if it's not mandated by the governor that we wear a mask, what could we do to a student that just says, I'm coming to school and I'm not wearing a mask? After so many times, that's what I'm saying. Parents want to know that if they send their kids, they would be sending them under the premise that we're all going to have a mask on, but we all know, let's not look at it and say, I've been in the high school, Joel, you've been in there a lot in the morning, Jess. I know with these kids that just walk by with the earbuds in their ear, they walk by with their hats on their head, they tell them to take it off, 2 doors down, they put it back on. We know if anybody thinks we're not going to have that scenario on there, I believe it's going to be with a small amount of students. Where are we going to go with this?
Yeah, so I mean, they are mandated to wear a mask. I just pulled out the guidance too, because I was reviewing this. They are required to wear a mask. I mean, I can't say the first time a student doesn't wear a mask that we're going to suspend them. Is suspension an option? Absolutely. Detention, maybe not so much right now, because we don't want to keep kids in the building after. But any of the consequences that we would typically use for, not following rules or for defiance, we would put in place. I mean, obviously the first thing we want to do is we want to educate on why you wear the mask. And I mean, I'm a secondary person. I've been in secondary schools for a long time. I know there are going to be kids that don't comply with what we're asking them to do. So we will be contacting parents. We will be having that discussion. But the bottom line is there is a distance learning option. So,
And if they do,
I says no, that we can't suspend students for that, but there is a distance learning option. So
yeah, I would be looking at that, like, definitely, a suspension or anything, I think would be counterproductive, right? But under normal circumstances, we don't have a distance learning option. And, when we suspend, right, that's why we kind of move away from taking the kids away from instruction, but we have an opportunity to deliver that instruction. And if in person under the guidelines doesn't fit, that's okay. We're going to move you to option B.
Right.
And there is a
But
statement.
don't we have an in-school for this reason?
We do, but we wouldn't be.
We wouldn't want to put them all in there.
Well, I'm
on.
looking at this as a one time. I'm literally looking at this as a one person, one time. You know what I'm saying? Once again,
so.
Sandy, you said the key thing. It's about educating people on why we're wearing them. Yeah, we're gonna probably get somebody who's being defiant. Just like the hat. Tony was right. You put the hat, take the hat off. You walk down 2 halls. You take it back. You put it back on. But if once you educate the people and explain why, I really do think that these kids, some of them may or may not know right now exactly why we're doing what we're doing, and they have an option.
We have plenty of
right.
them, so that's going to be our first strategy.
We do have masks in the schools,
Plenty.
correct, to pass out, right?
Oh, plenty,
Yes.
and we got a lot of masks from the state, so we have masks to hand out, both cloth and paper. If they need them, we're going to start there by offering them the mask and educating. And we do have kids that walk away and put the hat back on, but not most. Most of our students are very respectful. They forget when you ask them, they take it off and they don't put it on. So we're going to take that approach that students are going to comply because it's important and it's safe. And if they don't, then we're going to deal with that on a case-by-case basis, but it will be dealt with.
Sandy, I have. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Jessica.
I just wanted to know if we've had any clarification about face. Have we had any clarification about face shields on whether or not they're allowed in
Yeah,
schools?
so they can't be used in place of a mask according to the guidance. We do have face shields for everyone. So, part of that will be if you're working with a student and that maybe individually and you cannot maintain that 6 feet of distance, then maybe the face shield is an additional protection that you could use for both you and the student, but they cannot be used in place of the face shield. And just the other thing I wanted to say about as far as the policy and the discipline for not wearing a mask, it does say in the guidance that the school committee can make policy. So, I think it can be dealt with at the school level, but that's entirely up to the committee what they want.
I was thinking along those lines, Sandy, too, right? Well, the school committee, has the ability with regard to, dress codes and so forth, that would fall right in line with that. If we
Sandy,
saw
that's,
there was a need.
I think,
I think you froze, Mr. Ferrera. We can't hear you. Oh, we can hear you now. We can hear you.
Okay, yeah, Kathy, because the question I have, and like what Joel said, we're open. There seems to be an awful lot of, say, policies to open this building, but I'm adamant that, like I said, as schools are open and we're going to have situations, but like I went by Central Park the other night, it was about, and I, like I said, I don't think anybody thinks I lie, but I can easily go there tonight and take pictures. I'm very concerned when I go by Central Park and I counted over 67 kids at 8:15, high school age kids playing basketball, no mask, no nothing. And I just find it hard to believe that if a quarter of them, which would have been 15 of them, if they believe we're going to teach them safety and stuff and they're going to go to school and wear a mask for 5 hours, I just think that those are the groups that we're going to have a serious problem with, because I just can't comprehend if we teach them how safe it is, and then they're going to leave school, they're going to go play basketball for 2-3 hours, no mask, no social, like it's just 9 months ago. And I respect that they young men, young women, and teenage kids, and that's why I look at it as both sides. If we do open, we're going to have a large majority of kids that are going to follow us to the letter. And I just have an issue that if those parents believe that we're going to set them up and put them in that category to follow all the letters, but we have them a small majority, I would just think it's important to let the parents know this is what's going to happen if you take the confidence to send your student to our school system under this protocol we're following. If it is not followed, you can be assured that the student that is not following will be treated in A, B, or C. And I just think that's a big driving factor to let a parent know, listen, if you have any ideas of not wearing a mask, when you come home, we're going to take your phone. I think it's a two-sided street where we have to come up with some guidelines. If they don't follow it, get it out to the parents, and hopefully the parents come up with guidelines or discipline at night as well to say, listen, if you thought you were going out on a Friday night to grab something with one buddy, you're not going. If you went to school and you didn't, follow protocol, I just think it's going to be tough. I think we're going to have a big issue at the high school level than, in the middle school, because if we look at it, I don't have an idea how many, suspensions we had for phones, for smoking in the bathroom. If we look at that over the course of a 6-month period, I think that could be the category of people that we may have to really focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Could I ask, I've got 3 questions, Sandy. First, to follow up with what he was saying, could we have a policy meeting, Jessica, with Kathy and Sandy's help, to write a policy for kids non-conforming to the mask wearing policy? I think it should be district-wide, not up to the school.
District-wide, Karen, yes, district-wide.
So if we could do that, Jessica, maybe quickly, and at least before school starts. My other question is materials for classrooms. Not necessarily safety materials, but learning materials. The little kids, the hands-on, the counters, if kids cannot touch the same, do we have funds for those teachers to purchase additional materials for their classroom? Have teachers been given, or schools been given?
The teachers have plenty of manipulatives. That's
They
what you're
do.
talking. Yes, they do. So normally the children would be working individually with manipulatives in groups. So we do have plenty of that. The teachers are going to actually start to go in on August 31st, and for a series of, I think, 4 days, we have them going into their classrooms to get their classrooms ready. Yes, supplies and materials are plentiful.
Do we have any additional monies in case something, well, there must be, if somebody comes across something they need, they could notify their principal, who in turn would, okay.
Yeah, put it in the budget. Yeah.
One other question I have, for the elementary level, I know that there were teachers who were not able to return to school because of medical conditions. Will they be doing the distance teaching?
So do you want me to answer that? So it's going to really depend on our needs.
Okay.
Again, if we need somebody in person in a classroom, and they can't come in, then no, we wouldn't be able to utilize them. We haven't, because like I said, the numbers keep flipping. We don't have a solid answer for how many people we would need that would be just doing distance learning.
Oh, so you don't know how many staff you would need for that?
Not yet, because
okay.
Like I said, one student either way changes from like maybe 2 in-person classes.
Right.
Class. There are distance learning students that we might need to combine with another school and take 1 distance learning teacher, but we still need 2 in-person at that grade level at that particular school. Let's say.
Would it be?
Go ahead.
Does it make it easier that elementary teachers certification covers span? Unlike the specialties in the secondary.
Yeah, it could be. We're going to try and utilize everyone. We definitely we don't have a lot of elementary teachers right now that have put in the paperwork to stay home.
They're not. Yeah. Okay.
No. So, but we I mean, our priority would be to set them up with a distance learning classroom, and that's, what we're hoping to do. We just
Right.
don't have that information yet.
Okay,
Till we
okay.
have final numbers.
High school and middle school, Karen, the high school and middle school, that's certification. So let's say I'm a chemistry teacher and I need to go out
Right.
for family medical leave, then we would allow that person to live stream, but we'd have to put someone in his or her classes.
Right.
So, yeah. So, but we would allow that person because we have to, we need that certification.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, sure. I see. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I have
all
just a
set,
follow-up.
Karen?
If
I just wanted Jessica, if you could get back to me, if we could set that up as soon as possible.
Yes. We can do it whenever you want.
It's up to you. My schedule is more flexible than
Okay.
yours, so if you talk to
Well, I'm on
Cheryl,
vacation,
see what's good for
so
her.
anytime you're available. We'll talk.
Oh, it doesn't
Cheryl
have
and
to be, it doesn't have to be this week,
I'll-
just before school
No-
starts,
no
because
time like-
Tony's right. I think parents want to know,
Yeah.
what are the consequences for the kid sitting next to my kid not wearing a mask,
So I will say, like we have said, if it's in a classroom and a student, we're going to have students that might have medical reasons why I don't think there'll be, but we might have students who have medical reasons why they can't wear masks. So we will make sure that distance is maintained at all times. And we'll do that through specific seating in the classroom if a student couldn't wear a mask for medical reasons. And we would do the same thing if we, have a child that's refusing to wear it and for some reason we're not, first we deal with it. We wouldn't not address it if it wasn't a medical reason. We would address that.
Well, in my experience with middle school, if a child refuses to do that, and I accommodate that child with moving him within the room, I'm going to have 4 or 5 that are going to follow suit.
No, that's not what I'm
Right.
talking about, though.
Yeah.
I'm talking
Oh,
about
okay.
legitimate medical reason.
Yeah, that I understand, but
If a child's in a classroom and takes that
Yeah,
mask off, it would be like any other defiance. You send them out of the classroom or the
Awesome.
team comes to get them. They
okay.
take them down, they call the parents. If it's something that we're suspending for, we suspend.
Yep, okay.
And the consequences are going to be different at different grade levels too.
Right.
Kindergarten, it's going to be really hard to get them to continue to wear their masks all day. So it's, we're going to be working hard to do that, but it's different between, let's say a kindergarten student and a senior in high school and the choices they're making. So it's really hard for
Also going to
say like you get suspended, because if we put a policy in place that says that, do we suspend a kindergartner when they won't wear a mask?
No.
I think we
No,
have.
yeah, it has to be written for different levels.
Right.
So, Sandy, question back to, I know the principals are starting to send out their communications. If I could just ask specifically, I'm assuming that it's on there, but parents are repeatedly asking for supply needs for the distance learning at home. Have we instructed the teachers, principals, and then the teachers to be clear on that? Because that's something that repeatedly is coming up to me.
Yeah, so I did ask the principals that, and teachers had amended their supply list as it was. So the supply lists that are out there are the supply lists that students should have, whether they're at home or distance learning.
Okay.
I have a question, Sandy, probably for you. We had the discussion last week about the daily temperature checks. Where do the daily temperature checks stand right now? Will there be daily temperature checks?
So that is not part of our plan. The
Right.
plan that came from the operations committee with consultation from the school nurse. So, I mean, that's, I don't know.
Any temperature checks will be done through the clinic. If there is a need or, a child is showing any kind of symptoms, they'll be sent immediately to the nurse who will do the temperature checks in the buildings.
Okay,
but can I just answer that a little differently? There should be daily temperature checks taken at home before the students come to school.
Well, there is an
So
S.
there should, right, so there should be daily temperature checks. They're just done at home before kids go to school.
And parents are, the statement that parents make, there is the form on
They have to
Skype,
sign.
need to
Yeah.
fill out every day, and the attestation is saying that their student does not have a temperature.
Superintendent Crowley, I'm told that some of these other districts want to start distance learning because of economic reasons, because of budgetary reasons. They're choosing to go distance learning.
Yes.
Are you aware of that?
Yes, as I mentioned to you, I think I called you last week and told you that Burrville tonight is considering that. Burrville laid off quite a few teachers. And because he did not get the new state aid that he's operating on last year's state aid, he's short $1.1 million in Burrville, the superintendent. He is not able to recall any of his teachers, so he would be in violation of the beat. However, we were on a conference call this morning with Kevin Gallagher, who is the administrative assistant to the governor. And he said that they would work with Burrville on the problems he would have with the basic education plan, because the decision that Warwick has made has ramifications that people don't realize yet, in the form of lawsuits that are arising as a result of that, okay? Whether it is a special education parent because their child is not allowed to come into school and they feel they can't meet the needs of the IEP, which is a legal document. Regular ed parents now are filing suit because their children are being denied an in-person education. And then I guess there was something on Facebook, as you know, I'm not on Facebook, but there was something on Facebook showing a party with Warwick teachers, and there was over 60 people, and someone took a screenshot of that and sent it to the governor's office. So that's up there now too. So the message that we as superintendents received today is that to go to total distance learning at this point in time was not something that was condoned by the governor's office, that we could go in gradually, as East Providence is, you know, a few grades at a time, and operate that way. She's providing resources in the form of this group of National Guardsmen that are going to be our emergency support system, as well as Rhode Island Department of Health people that are going to come into our schools. She also talked about having a team similar to the team they dispersed to nursing homes, where if there was an outbreak in the school, that this team would come down, National Guard, and would actually do testing on the students, and the test would be back in 10 minutes. So they're working on that as well if the need arises and we had to call them in the case of emergency. And on Monday night's meeting, Mr. Chonis, the mayor had actually said that they wanted to turn the, what is that house called across the street from the high school there, where our technology was located?
Sweetland House.
Sweetland House.
Yeah, Craig was
Yeah,
on the
but there, yes,
clinic
yes.
where this, oh, Jessica was on the call too, right, Jessica, where
Yeah.
they would do
Yep.
some kind of testing set up there. So, and that was one of our weaknesses in the chart that I sent out to you, was the fact that testing right now is still, where they're saying 2.5 days, people are saying 5 days or longer to return the test. Now, if you have an outbreak in a school, that's a long time to keep everybody waiting to find out if you have to quarantine. So all those things are happening right now.
And now, I'm talking about the 8 superintendents that said that they will start distance learning today, this afternoon, because of economic reasons. Now, I guess we're fortunate because we don't have the same economic challenges, but there were 8 school districts that said they were going to start distance learning. And it sounds like it's pretty much economic, whether it's equipment, air ventilation, what they'll need to prepare. So, but that is out there on several news sources.
Yes, there are 8 AFT unions. It's AFT unions. There are 8 sources, but that was part of this conversation this morning, Mr. Jonas. I'm not sure in actuality that's going to happen, but I don't know.
I know, it came out. And
Yes.
one last thing, I would ask either Dr. Ferrand or Superintendent Crowley, if you have, or once you have a schedule on the virtual walkthroughs, could you send that out to the school committee, please? Just, I'd like to know when the virtual walkthroughs will take place. I know it won't be till after the 31st, but I'd just like to know that when the virtual walkthroughs are going to take place.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sandy, I have a question.
Anyone else?
Charlie, I got a question for Sandy. Are you there, Sandy?
Go ahead.
You can't.
I'm here, yep.
Sandy, just a question where you were saying earlier, like if a student, comes to, lets us know by the letter that he's coming into school or coming out, how you got to revamp everything.
Mhm.
Say if school does open and say on a Monday and then like on a Tuesday, if 2 kids decide to stay home, district learn, would you have to go through the same protocols as you're doing now? Or would it be easier for you guys at that point?
So what we'd probably have to do was take them out of their home school if there was no room in that distance learning class and plug them in somewhere else. What we're really trying to do right now is keep students with their teachers in their school, if at all possible. It's not possible in every situation, but we really are trying, because the hope is that the transition back into school, if this does change during the year, that students will be able to just go right back into the classrooms with the teachers that they've had all year. So anything after the 31st, I mean, we still can't guarantee right now they're going to be in their home school for distance learning, but after the 31st, we can't guarantee they'll be in their home school for either. We're going to have to plug them in where we have space, because we can't keep redoing the numbers at that point. It wouldn't be fair to shuffle other students.
No, that's what I'm saying, Sandy. That's the type of information that's very important that we get out ahead of time, because that's what I'm saying. Like, we can't, now it must be, a task to deal with, but I can picture, say, at the high school, if we got 400 kids and you got to go in there and revamp, this is the information that we definitely got to get to the parents to say, we would do the best we can, but if you decide to bring a student, we're going to put him in the nearest closest school that we could. We can't guarantee, we won't guarantee he's going to his home school. That would be excellent, that type of information, Sandy, to get to the parents.
And that's what we've been saying. So the deadline was really August 7th. So based on, if you submitted your form before August 7th, then we are, like, you will be in your home school. We are definitely working the best we can. There are some classes where it's not going to be possible to keep distance learning in their home school because of the in-person numbers. But once we have to make decisions after that, like now, as we start to make decisions, if you submitted your paperwork, yesterday, your student will be the first one that gets placed in a placement that might not be the home school. So
Okay.
we're going to be fair to the way that those forms for distance learning came in, and for people that adhered to that August 7th deadline, but we're going to do the best we can to accommodate everyone with their request. It just may not be in their home school or with their home teacher.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Charlie, I just wanted to.
Yep.
Yeah, well, comments, and I'm glad Kathy brought it up, because it seems to be, I feel like it's something that's overlooked, right? When Warwick made their decision, and it was a pump in the fist, and and then there was that hesitation, and I think the governor was pretty vague, but I'm not surprised that the lawsuit's coming down the road. And I think to address some of the folks that have reached out to me, and there have been many, mostly in support of going back and at least giving that option. But, you know, what was interesting is that many of them thought that this was a vote that the district had to make tonight. And they were surprised to find out that, you know, this was something that didn't have to be done. And then the question was, well, you know, if we don't know what the state is going to decide, then, you know, why do anything? And so I'll go back to the lawsuit issue. At the end of the day, the way I see it is the Department of Health owns the decision on what ultimately is safe. I think as a district, we should absolutely stand firm in demanding that they verify that our environments are safe. But at the end of the day, I feel that they need to determine that, because if we, I mean, we just spent, I think, what, maybe not even a week ago, we were talking about making sure we had plans for career tech students to go in and get their hours, and rightfully so. But, you know, to talk about doing 100% distance learning and to tell the, you know, the parent of that special needs child or even a regular ed child, but, you know, to the extreme, right, or to the high level is that special ed child to say, hey, you know what, we made accommodations for our career tech, but we're going to deny you access, and to say based on what? Because the only health organization that's involved in the decision has told us where to go. So, you know, the way I see that is if we were to take a stance that went against that guidance, it would have no, we wouldn't have any medical position on that, and basically tell Ben Scungio to leave his calendar open and tell Craig to leave his checkbook open, because I don't see any defense to that special ed lawsuit for denying services, or even a regular ed for denying services, or to the CTC student for denying services, if we tell them that we're going to go against the Department of Health and declare it an unsafe space. Again, I think we've got to do our part to make sure that our district is in line and that the Department of Health is very clear on what's required. So, you know, it's a matter of, you know, right now there's a choice out there. You know, if I was going to make an analogy, I would say that taking a vote tonight is, it's like making a call to steal second base, and the pitch count is like 3-1. Like, what are you doing? Like, we don't know, you know, we've got 5 days to wait to see. The governor may call it. And at that point, we're good. If the governor doesn't call it, we're facing potential lawsuits just like Warwick is. And the other piece, and Kathy will probably be mad at me for taking a shot at the commissioner, but let's pay attention to the fact that the commissioner just said that she's looking into the idea of school choice for students to go to districts that are offering in person. And if she does that, that means that you want to talk about budget. First, you got the legal impact. And I know it's not all about money versus safety, but when you do all this and you take away those dollars, now we're not providing services to our students when we do get back in the building. The school choice means that we're going to end up paying for some student at roughly, I don't know, $13,000, $15,000 a pop to go to another school to get bused there. Okay, and then so that's another piece of it. And for my teachers, I'm very concerned with us jumping the gun too early without really making sure that it can't be done. And again, I'm not saying that it 100% can be done. I would look to Providence. I think that virtual learning pilot that Providence is doing is a huge threat to public education happening in the building. And I definitely don't want to give the Rhode Island Department of Ed any opportunity to slide any such project in here. If we can be in person with our students, then I think we owe it to every single child, regardless of need, to make sure that we can. And if we cannot, when it's time to make the call, if it hasn't been made by the state, then let's get our ducks in a row and make the right decision. But on August 25th, 5 days before we even know what the governor is going to call, it's just a premature pull of the trigger. So thank you.
Joel,
Okay.
I respect your decision on that, Joel, but I don't have much confidence in what's coming from the state based on you talk to anybody in the HVA system to even think by opening a school bus window in any climate weather, they got to stay open, Joel, to get an extra 10 kids on a bus. You show me anything scientific that works. There is none, Joel. There is none.
So
all these conversations,
valid, Tony.
Conversations that are being brought up now, I would have felt much better if the governor was bringing them up 2, 3, 4 weeks back. What's happening, Joel, is there was a plan rolled out for us. It backfired. Now she's backpedaling out of it. All this information we're hearing, in other words, is just coming to fruition because the public is saying, we're not confident what you're giving to us. Please give us something etched in stone that we can follow. Now, I understand that everything is a moving pot, but the virus itself is not a moving pot. The virus is killing people on a daily basis throughout the country. The virus is infecting people on a daily basis throughout the country. Other states that have opened their school systems have failed. So I would never want to say that we have the smartest scientists, working for any of that. I don't want to say anybody's any smarter. That I'm not that type of guy. All I look at is numbers. I look at numbers.
So
when we look at these communities, Joel, in entire states, and you look at basketball, you look at the athletics in this country, they have unlimited budgets. They have basically put people in plastic bags, per se, and they are backing away from this. So imagine having unlimited money and you can't keep an athlete safe. And I understand some of them earn $30-40 million a year, and that's where it is. So, like I said, you can go where you want to go, Joel. And if you can admit that a lot of this information now hasn't been coming forth, I think it's on a much safer level. But why wasn't it coming 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks back?
Right. So Tony, So I don't disagree with you as far as the information coming to us when it should have, or decisions being made. But my point is, we've been told that the decision is coming in 5 days, right? And yet there's an agenda item tonight to vote before knowing what that call is going to be. And if that call is not in line with our decision, what I'm stating is that we will be in violation of those individual children services, because we will not have a medical stance to deny them an education. Now with the busing, Tony, I would agree with you, right? I think it's kind of like, I think, all right, well, that's a little, silly. Now the option that people don't want to hear on that, what's stopping the governor from saying, yeah, you know what? Public transportation or school transportation just isn't a viable option. However, the building is open. If you can find transportation, or we'll work with you, but otherwise, school buses aren't going to be an option for health reasons. My point is that if we have one child that is saying, so, and I'll state this example because I know it was on my page. So in essence, it was public, and I won't state names. But again, when this same committee said to this administration, please put together, and rightfully so, please put together a plan for our CTC students. And I believe that this committee, just like Woke, just backed off. You want to talk about backing off? They backed off because they realized that they were violating servicing their children based with no grounds. So they backed off of their stance and opened it up. So this committee said to the administration, make sure that our CTC kids can get in some way to get their hours, right? So now, do I want to go to that parent who posts on my page saying that she has triplet 5-year-olds, 2 are staying home because they're healthy, she's going to do the distance learning, but the third is completely nonverbal, blind,
I
deaf,
don't
needs
know.
extreme services.
Now they're
And
eating that.
you want me to tell that parent that we are accommodating this portion of our student population, but we don't want to accommodate her child. And based on what grounds is what I'm saying. Now, again, if the Department of Health is coming in, our job is to tell the Department of Health, here's the guidelines, tell me where we're meeting it. And if we question that, that's who we question. But the Department of Health owns that. And if we take charge of it, listen, we just finished paying settlements from votes that were taken with bad information. And what I'm saying is that we have no information. We have no idea what's coming down the road on the 31st, and we're rushing to take a vote. That's what I don't understand. I mean, we could take this vote and then what? And then on the 31st, the governor says, you know what? Metrics aren't met. So we're going to do distance learning based on the Department of Health. And what do we do other than the fact that right now we have a community that is split almost 50-50. And what's going to come out of it is you're going to have a school committee, and maybe that's the goal. I don't know, Tony, but you're gonna basically tell the community that you have a school committee that's divided on the issue, but rightfully so, because we represent the community. And if you go by the numbers, numbers alone, you say talk numbers, the numbers.
I wrote something up today. Could I read it, please?
Sure.
Because I think that I have such strong fears about returning to school and have expressed them at other meetings. But I didn't address taking a vote, but I just wrote something up. Science and educational research are clear. Under normal circumstances, it's better to have kids back in school every day. We all want that. All of us are anxious for that, as soon as it's safe. But what is safe? I personally struggle with this. I'm not convinced that the steps we're taking are enough or even appropriate. I recognize that my personal circumstances with the dangers of this virus have certainly influenced my fears. And while I personally am not in favor of my grandson attending in person, and I'm beyond grateful that my daughter has elected to keep him home, I cannot and will not make that decision, though, for other families. Our administration continues to work tirelessly, providing in-person or remote learning choices for our East Providence families. Over half of our families have elected in-person learning for their children. Each family's circumstances and needs are individual to them. Parents know what's best for their kids. Their decisions have been difficult and have not been made lightly. I respect each and every one of them. I therefore cannot support a vote that would limit the choices and the wishes of our families.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you. We have, evidently, we've morphed into the next item, which is the discussion Mr. Freer asked for, the beginning of the school year and distance learning. Tony, do you want to say anything at this point?
Charlie, I had tracked a lot of this virus, and I still do it. I have a nephew that's a firefighter, but I got to be very leery information that comes from him. But I do have other friends and stuff. I think we all got friends, in this city. The only thing that I could say is, I don't know if anybody's heard when the fire department and people dial 911 and they enter these homes with the older population and they're laying on their beds and they're drowning in their fluids and stuff. That's the type of stuff that Joel, I don't think's got that kind of information too. That's the information that's not out there in the public.
Of course I do.
So what?
I said, of course I have that information, and I work in a medical environment where we're taking precautions daily to protect against. So I'm very aware.
No, what I'm saying is, I just always, what I'm saying, Joel, is when you have friends that go and deal with that, and these people did nothing wrong. In other words, to me, that's what I'm focusing on, like the whole entity of this. Like, in other words, if we have teachers in the high school or any school that is going in there to do a professional job and something happens to them, what is the consequences to the school department at that point? What happens if there's an outbreak in a classroom?
It depends on the Department of Health.
Oh, no, what I'm saying is, but if we can't, there's always, that's why there's two sides of the law firm. That's why there's two sides to everything. And I respect the side that you always go on the cautious side of it. My life don't require.
Cautious, it's the one.
But what I'm saying,
budget so that we can, so that we don't keep spending money on everything but our kids.
Right. No, like I said, if we look at always spending money, but like I said, this is a life-threatening disease. It has nothing to do with money. And to say that, right, we got half our population home and we got all the staff back at the, you know what I'm saying? So I look at it like that. It's not like we're bringing in all the staff to monitor, the whole school district. We're at 50-50. And like I said, Joel, when I look at it like this, I say to myself, all the things that are changing, I want to believe they're changing for the better based on the information that we're getting. But what I'm saying, Joel, it's a learning process every day with this virus. They learn every day about it. And that's why I believe that some of the information that they knew just didn't get put towards us, say, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 weeks back. Some of the information coming to us is learned on a daily basis. I respect that. But at the end of the day, who is to say what Ride in the health department knows on the 31st etches this all in stone? I got to kind of look at it and say, if I agreed with that, everything else that's happening in the country, that where schools are reopening, and there's countless hundreds of thousands now. When colleges opened, colleges actually had all the kids tested before they went to campus. They're all closing, but all those people are right. In other words, we're the only ones that look at it and say, as a whole, Joe, I don't think we're the only ones that trying our model, that other states, other environments have not done the same, or they had countless billions to do better, and it failed them.
Tony, that's not true though. That's not true though. Tony, the examples you talk about of other schools, unless there's something, unless you want to state one specifically, but everything I've looked at, the schools that have gone in and have failed had no precautions. They had recommendations from, they didn't have any plan. So we're not comparing apples to oranges. And when you want to talk about, hold on. I let you speak. No, but I'm responding to your statement, right? So the other piece is colleges here in the Northeast, just in the city of Boston, which I work with, right? You have 2 different models. One has everyone back and they're doing a partial inclusion in the building, in the rooms, in the clinics, and another one has said, don't come. So I can tell you that the issues at the one with that's doing partial, things are working fine. Am I saying that the other one is wrong for making their decision? No, but at the end of the day, they're making their decisions based on the medical professional. There isn't one of us 5 that is qualified as a medical professional to make this determination. And the question I would have for you, Tony, is you have the access to this, and like we all do. I'll go back to the statement I made earlier. You and we supported you under circumstances that were no better than they are today. Said, Kathy, we need to get those CTC kids in the building. Nothing has gotten worse since that request was made by you and supported fully by the school committee.
Don't twist to it. I said, how are we going to teach them when they can't do construction on a computer? How are we going? I didn't tell them
that's not true. You said I want to make sure we find a way to get them in. You said find a way to get them in because they need those hours. That was and it was fully supported by all 5 of us.
If you're good at keeping track to every word, then I apologize to that. But if you're right, you're always right. So if those were my exact words,
I'm not always right, but
then I agree with you. I'm going to agree with you for the sake of
Listen,
not to argue,
yeah.
but like I said, that has
No.
Joel, on my decision that I can make a vote. Not
I know it doesn't, because listen, your decision was made by somebody else a long time ago. So the fact is, I'm looking to be consistent.
You're right. See,
Okay. And if we want to care for the CTC students or any other student, at the end of the day, we have to provide every opportunity to every student based on the guidelines that we're given, is what I'm saying. So again,
right.
I respect your, there's 5 of us and everybody has their own vote. So what I'm saying is that a vote to do 100%, by the way, we would be the first district now in the state to do 100% distance learning, because the first one backed off in their distance learning. So if we actually wanted to shadow the Warwick model, we would be more in line to what the district is proposing, which is allowing families to make the decision, and we would continue to service our special ed, our MLL, our CTC students, because that's exactly what Warwick backed off on. So without any medical justification, what we're doing is we are walking into a legal firestorm, and we're making a decision without the proper information and justification. That's all I'm saying.
Joel, we all have our opinions, and I respect yours. But like I said, once again, you look to the scientists. There's no vaccine for this. There's nothing. It's destroying the heart muscles around the heart.
Yeah.
It's devastating the immune system in these people. So right. So you can say about the legal issues and I respect all that. And that's why at the end of the day, I am not pleased with saying to 2,500 kids and 400, 700 teachers that the environment you may be walking into may harm you for the next 10, 15, 20 years of your life. In other words, that's all I'm saying, Joe. I have the right to my opinion like you.
You absolutely do.
And
I just asked the question.
Right. And I never accuse you of taking your vote from somebody else, but because I'm the politician around here. Exactly.
Well, no,
like
you
I
said it.
Right. Exactly. But what I'm saying is, I think, Joel, that there's enough information out there throughout this country that supports that they are learning about this daily. They're working on things. And for us to rush into it, I just don't feel comfortable with it, because there is 2 sides to it, Joe. We can't argue that, right? You got the people that want to go in and you got the people that want to stay home. We can't argue that, Joe. So what I'm saying, Joel, is how about
not at all.
No, what I'm saying about how about my personal opinion? It has to slide one way or the other. I can't, split it in half. So we all have to look at it and say, we got to follow, where we're looking at this. But I think in a case like this, where it's such a deadly virus, you have to infuse some personal, feelings and how you feel and the personal information about it and stuff like that there, and say, do you want to ever see that happen to a teacher that I may or not know? Do you want to see that happen to a teenager that I know that was on the track team but may never be able to run again? In other words, that's happening throughout the country, Joel. So you can say, what you want to say, and I respect that, Joel, but I'm not saying that everything that I'm saying I just make up. It's information that's out there. I don't know how I would feel, having a track team, and I say that just as an athletic situation. He may never be able to, play track again, Joel. He may not be able to play football or something again. And that's where I look
understand that, Tony.
And I understand the education portion, Joel, but nobody seems to be looking at a deadly issue that may not kill somebody, but may affect their immune system for the rest of their life if they're a teenager, or for 20, 30 years if they're a teacher. I don't hear none of that conversation, which is okay. This might not be the forum for it, but that's not going to change my opinion to say now that we have to go into, City Hall. We have to go into other places that we don't want to go back into City Hall, but we're going to send all these kids back in there. And Joel, they're a corporation, some of the biggest corporations in the country. They're having their people work from home for the next 2 years.
Mr. Ferreira, if you don't mind, I think Dr. Bowler, did you want to say something here?
No.
Dr. Bowler?
No. No.
You don't.
So
Thank you
so
for
if-
I didn't know if you were signaling.
If I may, Tony,
Okay.
and I appreciate that, right? So we have those opinions. My concern is this, is that, you know, too often, and we've seen it in this city, that our elected officials feel that our opinions are something that we should be able to cast as a control piece on others, right? So the concerns that you bring are valid. So, you know, I've said it, my son on his own, he had the choice and he's choosing distance learning. Okay, so I don't begrudge anybody who's not willing to go into the school. Now, my wife is looking forward to being in the school and supporting however is needed. But that's an in-home decision. When I talk to families who you know, you have mothers and fathers are saying, hey, you know, two different sides of the coin, and they've got to work that out. What I'm saying is there is no wrong answer in this case because there is so much unknown. The issue that I have, and where I think we step into the hornet's nest unnecessarily, is we are pulling that option from that family. Okay, we are basically saying you are not capable of deciding for yourself. We are going to decide for you. Is that's my opinion on how I see it and what's been said.
Okay, so I've sat back now for half an hour. I haven't spoke. So I'm now going to speak. So thank you, Chairman, for allowing this, because I'm now going to speak because I haven't gotten to. Joel, what you are saying right now is you said that we're taking away the parents' rights to make this choice. We are not taking away anything because as of right now, we haven't voted. So we have not done anything. Right. Parents have weighed risks of their own children from the moments and benefits from the moments children have been taken home from the hospital or adopted. Parents make their choices and they weigh the risks and the benefits for their own children from that first moment up until, you know, whether or not they're supposed to go to a party when they're in high school. They make those choices. I'm not going to be the person sitting here taking away those parents' choices right now. I'm sorry, I'm not. But you guys all knew this prior to this conversation because you all knew how I felt. I have declared how I have felt from day one about this. Distance learning cannot be replicated in the classroom. I do not believe that. I believe children get the best education in the classroom. I understand, Tony, what you're saying. I understand. I may not have firsthand knowledge because I do not have a family member that's a firefighter. I do have family that is, I actually am here with a child right now who has breathing issues. I have a mother who has COPD. I'm well aware. And all of this was put into effect when I thought about whether or not I will be sending my daughter back to school. It was a family discussion that we all discussed what was best for her. We made the decision. That's what family is doing right now. They are making the decisions. What's best for their family. I'm not going to sit here and take that away from families. Now, I would rather this not be an option or a choice tonight that we have to make. I would rather it be the decision of the state. I would rather not it be a vote, but it's on the agenda for a vote. So if today is the day that we are going to be made in this moment in time, that our actions are going to determine the consequences moving forward, that is the choice that we have to make. I would rather it not be, but it is. But once again, I don't think what we do in our schools and what educators do in the schools can be replicated. I know we have some of the best educators in our schools. I know how hard they are working. I know how much PD is being offered for all of this distance learning, but the safe environment, the education, the nutrition, all of that stuff cannot be replicated. And I think that we owe it to our students and our staff, because many of which the emails came in from the staff as well, which we did not discuss today, wanting to go back to school. I don't know if you got those emails too, everybody, but I did. I I just think that we need to reflect on that. I just think, in my opinion, all this other stuff, yes, there are people getting sick. Yes, there will be people in our schools that are going to get it. It's not going away. But we didn't spend all this time to just send our kids to school and say, okay, well, good luck. We're prepared. We're educated. We have an amazing staff that is going to make sure that this is done the best. And like I have said before, and I'm going to say it again, I must have said it 15 times today while I was emailing. The first case of COVID happened to be somebody in East Providence's family member. And we dealt with it in the state of Rhode Island, and we dealt with it and we handled it as professionals, and no one got sick from it. So kudos to everyone for working their butts off on the plans that we have done. Everything that we have done, I am proud of what we have. I'm proud of the team that has been put together. I'm proud of the teachers. I'm proud of everybody who's going to be willing to put their foot forward and to do what's best for the students. But I 100% believe it is up to the family's choice to make the decision for what's best for their students, just like it always has been from the moment they were born.
Thanks, Jessica. I just will say at this point, first and foremost, it's the safety that I've always been concerned about, because I know the people who work in the East Providence School Department will accomplish that mission. They will do whatever they have to do to get the job done. So there's no question that they will do their best, whether it's in person or distance learning. I, though, have been listening very closely to the governor, and I am willing to wait to see what the governor says on Monday. I am not, we still have time to make decisions. And our teachers, our staff did not sign up to get into harm's way. Our students did not sign up to get into harm's way. And I don't know how much danger they are actually in, and I don't know if I'm willing to risk that. But right now, I'm willing to wait a few more days to see what the governor has to say. My problem is, I think the whole school department is trying to make a plan. And all we're doing is we're delaying those plans from being finalized, and we're delaying our own people to make some long-term decisions. So that's where I am on this tonight. Is there anybody else that wants to offer anything at this time?
Charlie, the only quick scenario that I want to state, because like you said, bringing up safety, I just want everybody to pay attention. We have an elementary school that has an egress door in every classroom, but we wouldn't send our kids into the building without a working fire alarm and stuff, because we know it could be a dangerous situation. Not saying that a fire would ever break out, and we still have the same excellent teachers in there. Our fire department in this state is second to none. The fire apparatus in this state, that city's second to none. We still would not open up a school with defected fire alarms and stuff in it. Why? Because we know better, and we would never want to face the consequences if something ever happened to one student or one teacher when we could have prevented it. And that's what I got to say. And I want to thank everybody for their, I believe it's all everybody's honest opinions. That's what we do very well. We speak our honest opinion. Now and then I seem to get beat up over mine, but I'm okay with that. But I think everybody speaks the truth here.
Can we move on to the action items, please?
Just one thing, because Tony, the back and forth with you, I actually do enjoy it. But I think your example is a good one, right? So that fire example, the reason why we don't bring those students into that building is because state law won't allow us to. So there's a higher power that is making that determination, and we are following the law. And if we didn't follow the law, then we would be subject to some serious legal action, regardless of someone getting hurt. So That's my version of that, but that's it. Thanks.
Could I just tell Mr. Ferrera, you're not getting beat up on your opinions, because I agree 100% with everything you say. I'm petrified of this. Again, I've said it before. I agree with you with some of the, but it's just that I just can't make that choice for other people. But my fears are real. I agree with you. I wish somebody could tell me for sure that this is a guarantee. I feel that way. I'm worried. I'm worried sick about the kids, the staff, everybody. And every day that we're open, I'll be praying. But I also completely agree with Jessica that parents have a right to make those decisions and choices for themselves. And everybody has different circumstances, and I'm not going to judge what they may be. It may be a single mom that needs her kids to be in school in order to feed her kids. It may be a parent of a special needs student who needs special. I just can't judge, and I have to respect everyone's. Would I make it? No. Would I hope that everyone was able to manage without going into the building? Absolutely. But that's just not reality. But I like listening to you, Tony.
Charlie, can I ask you a question?
Go right ahead.
No, just curious to know if, I know in your talks at City Hall or whatever, and someone had asked me this and I didn't know. Are there any talks with this being such a, a hot issue, and again, Mr. Ferrera's concerns I think are exactly the concerns of this committee. Any talks, like when you look at, and I'm not implying that these things shouldn't be happening, but when you look at the recreational programs that are running on the Little League, the basketball, the splash park was celebrated as opening, like these are all kind of attractors. And then in the same community, we're debating whether or not, we should open school for fear of, like, is anybody leaning on the city? Because somebody said to me, well, that's like kind of counterproductive to what you guys are trying to do, what's going on. And I just said, I honestly don't know. I'll ask.
Joe, honestly, I don't think anyone has made that an issue at city level. I will tell you that my grandson is at Central Park almost daily and seeing a lot of those kids that Tony sees. And my grandson is fine, thank goodness. But
thank God, yeah. Yeah,
don't get me wrong. I worry about my grandson too. Yeah. And he wants to have his middle school experience. He wants to go to Martin and get his middle school experience. I want him to be safe. So I appreciate the question, but can we move on to the action item to consider and vote to approve the fiscal year 2021 school budget?
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. The next item, Mr. Ferrera. Consider and vote to approve to begin the school year with distance learning.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Ferrera made the motion. Is there a second?
What are you doing, watching a movie?
I want to talk to him.
Yeah.
I do not hear a second. Well, the motion fails because there is no second.
Sometimes you can't get everything you want,
Ben or Sharon, do we have any public comment?
Yes, there are public comments. I'll be putting them up on the screen in a moment. Sharon, let me know if you can see that.
Yes, thank you, Ben, but I just can't see to the right, the last words.
Yeah, if you can slide that, Ben, if possible.
Oh.
That's pretty good, Ben. Sharon, are you okay with that?
I can see that.
Oh, there we
set?
go, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
No
The first
problem.
the first one's from Mary Texera, Silver Spring School, employee of the district. This is my 33rd year teaching in the district. Tonight I speak for myself, but I also speak on behalf of my students. Never has it been more important for students to be in school. The virus has disrupted our lives, but it did expose to many something that all teachers already knew. The most important factor is the quality of a child's education is the teacher who stands in the front of the classroom every day. Technology may have made us doubt that in recent years, and certainly we are grateful for that technology, which has enabled us to stay connected. But the virus has proved that distance learning is no substitute for the personal interaction between teachers and their students. The silver lining of COVID is that we saw that no matter how much effort we put into distance learning, it could never be as meaningful and effective as teachers working with their students face to face. Parents' appreciation of teachers grew exponentially as they struggled to help their children learn. It is the community that teachers build with each student that makes them feel safe, that engages them in learning new things, that encourages them to respond to challenges, and that makes them believe that there is hope to overcome any obstacles we face in life. In March, most of us could not envision the day when we could go shopping again, go to the beach, go to a restaurant, and worship at our church, mosque, or synagogue. But we can do all of that now. We do it with masks on our faces. We socially distance. We wash our hands more than we ever dreamed we would, but we do it. In-person learning is one of the most important things still left in limbo. It is too important to be left there. We need to return to school. We will do it carefully, always conscious of safety first. We have found a way to do other much less important things since the virus stopped us cold. We must find a way to reopen our schools because our children's educational future is far too important not to. The next one is from Emily Ordette, citizen, community member. My name is Emily Ordette. I teach in a public school in Rhode Island, but I live in East Providence. I understand and empathize with the students and families who will experience many hardships if it is voted to continue distance learning full-time. However, hybrid learning plans or having to close schools when cases increase would not be any less disruptive for students and families. I am encouraging this committee to hold our state leaders accountable for supporting families' financial hardships during this time, and I am urging you to follow Warwick and Burrowville's lead in voting yes to return to 100% distance learning. State leaders are not financially or logistically able to guarantee families a safe return to in-person learning at this time. East Providence has been identified by the Harvard Global Health Institute and Johns Hopkins as not ready to return to in-person learning and currently has an even higher test positive rather than Warwick at 10%. We should be concerned with protecting the lives and physical safety of our students, teachers, and other school staff. Please vote yes to return to 100% distance learning. We have one from Amy Lopes, parent, grandparent of a student. Good evening. I would like to address the notion of distance learning for all students. Families were given the choice if they felt this would best serve their child or family situation. If distance learning for all children is voted for this evening, the school district will fail to uphold the choice for those of us who did not choose this as their option. As an educator, I sympathize with my fellow colleagues about the uncertainty of this upcoming school year. However, I respectfully ask that you still keep in-person learning as an option, as distance learning did not work for my child, and this being a transition year for her as she is a student going into high school. The next one is from Holly Farias, parent, grandparent of a student. I am a mother of 2 children and an aunt to several in the East Providence school system. Choosing how we start the school year is probably the most important decision that will need to be made this year. This decision not only affects students, teachers, and staff, but it affects their families, our community, and the entire state. Many children are watched or even live with elderly grandparents who are most vulnerable to COVID. Kids will inevitably bring this virus home and then infect grandparents. Do we really want to make children live with the fact that they brought this virus home to their grandparent or even parent? Think about how that would affect a child if their loved one, God forbid, didn't make it. This seems like it would be more mentally damaging than having to continue with distance learning. Please make the decision for all East Providence students to begin the 2020-21 school year fully distance learning. The next one is Chrissy Rossi, citizen community member. Dear School Committee, I would like to voice my concern regarding the budget process. There is no opportunity for public Q&A in this process besides sending a written comment. I have been unable to find this proposed budget or any supporting documentation on the school department website, and I have questions. You are about to submit a budget north of $87 million taxpayer dollars with only 2 pages of combined line items and no supporting documentation. I asked 3 committee members and they all said they received the same 2 pages and their questions were responded to via the finance director or admin. Where's the transparency? This process excludes the public from questioning spending, and frankly, it's downright shady. In my humble opinion, the hardworking families in the city deserve a little more effort for that kind of money. Your refusal to resume in-person meetings troubles me because you are on board to send children, faculty, and staff back to school in person. Yet, despite numerous other communities resuming in-person meetings and even our own city council, you have chosen to continue virtually meeting. I would have loved to have been part of the open process and spoken to you all in person tonight, right to your face like an adult. But the best we're going to get is a written 2,000-word note, which will be read into the minutes. So here we are. If you're so comfortable sending our kids into these buildings to sit for 6 hours a day, wearing little masks and facing forward all day, you should be comfortable with the open meetings process and get these meetings back to the people. The staff has worked diligently to make the buildings as safe as possible, but there are no guarantees that we can keep our kids safe or that they won't bring disease home to their families. The double standard is shocking, but as long as you're okay with it, there's nothing the public can do to change our mind. And the next one is from Stephanie Muse, Rhode Island teacher in Central Falls, parent and East Providence property owner. Title 16, Chapter 2, of the general laws grant school committees the entire care, control, and management of public school interests, including 16-2-24, the power to address the health and wellness of students and employees. On August 11th, a University of Florida research team found that 74 airborne virus particles traveled 16 feet in a room with 6 air interchanges per hour, efficient filters, and outfitted with ultraviolet radiation. The team's lead virologist, Dr. Lennicki, noted that indoor spaces without good ventilation, such as schools, might accumulate much more airborne virus. On August 12th, Rhode Island Department of Health reported a 13 to 16% increase in 207 new cases in children 0 to 19 in the 2-week period from July 29th to August 12th. In early August, a study showed that children ages 5 to 17 carried high levels of the virus. Dr. Tribble, a pediatric infectious diseases specialist, that does not automatically mean they are contagious or likely to spread the disease, but also advises that we don't fully understand the extent to which kids can fuel transmission. It's certainly possible that they have a role. Studies like this remind us of how much it is still unknown about the virus. Rhode Island Department of Health's Dr. Wendelken, it is more challenging to identify how infections spread among children because they often don't show symptoms, making it less likely to be able to trace children back to a common exposure. On top of that, we cannot, as a district, deliver truly stable pods. Data from the Harvard Global Health Institute names Providence County as risk level red, not ready to reopen schools. All schools should stay remote. This advice conflicts with safety metrics issued by Rhode Island Department of Health, RIDE, and the White House COVID Task Force. But can we justify why, as a community, we should ignore data coming out of the Harvard Global Health Institute? It would be irresponsible for this committee to return students to our school buildings while this guidance has been issued. We must explore other viable options. Thank you. Next one is Peter Muse, citizen community member. If the current data is inconclusive regarding a safe reopening of our school buildings, then we need to err on the side of caution. East Providence is well positioned to return to a robust model of distance learning as we saw in the spring. For the safety of our students and school staff, a return to distance learning to start the 2021 school year is the safest option for our community. Until we can fund, staff, and guarantee to each of our families and school staff members safe transportation, adequate ventilation, definitively stable pods, protocols that mitigate risk during unmasked school lunch periods, and an adequate plan to address students' developmental need for things like movement and recess during the school day, we are not ready to reopen our school doors. Childcare accommodations and general welfare issues, though of alarming importance, are not within the purview of the school committee and therefore must not be used as an excuse to put our students and school staff in a position of risk by returning them to school buildings. Next one is from Crystal McKay, citizen community member. It is not easy to plan for a district, and I do not envy or minimize the effort of trying to come up with a plan. That being said, starting or rather continuing with the distance learning that was begun earlier in 2020 seems like the only viable and safe option for everyone in the community, following the lead of Warwick, where they are doing 100% distance learning. Families need to feel supported and safe, not threatened, and state leaders should be acting and working to support continued distance learning to protect everyone, students, faculty, and all they come into contact with, by not returning to in-person learning when the county and state are clearly not safe. And one more from Deborah Omeron, citizen of district and an employee of district. Concern about lack of stable pods at the middle and high school level. This is an impossibility due to the nature of student course selection. The lack of stable groups forces all school workers to be exposed to hundreds of people every day. That's the last one. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any announcements? We agreed on a meeting for next Tuesday. Is there any objection to having a meeting next Tuesday
Well, Charlie, if I may, on the
to
announcements, I'm
discuss
sorry.
reentry?
I was just on mute.
Yep.
Charlie, I just
I'm
have
sorry?
a question for Craig. Craig.
Yep, I'm here.
Charlie?
Yes,
I think he,
Greg is here. Go ahead, Tony. I
he
think
just
Tony's
froze.
frozen right now.
Craig, are you there?
There you
Yes.
go.
Charlie, are you,
Go ahead, Tony.
I Kathy. Oh, Charlie, can you, if Craig can't hear me, can you have, Craig, we expended on
Yep.
this,
Craig's here. We just
Yeah, I'm
can't hear
here.
you. You can't hear him. Oh, he just went out.
Have him call back in.
Kathy, I can
Oh, there you
see
go.
you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes.
Now we can't. Nope,
No.
There he's off.
no.
There he is. He's back.
Hello, Tony?
Kathy, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
now we can't. Nope, no, Tony, we can't.
Hey, that's,
Answer the phone. Answer.
I gave it to Tony Fierce.
Nope.
Tony Fiola's answering it, I think.
Yeah, there was Tony looking for me.
Wait, no.
We can hear you now.
Okay, no, Tony, they can hear me. Okay,
Perfect.
all right. No, Kathy, we can't get that information, or we can, oh, you can't hear me.
I didn't hear what you asked for.
If you can send out to the committee tomorrow how much money we've spent to get our schools reopened.
Yes, I don't believe we spent too much. We've given it all to FEMA, right, Craig? Yeah,
Correct,
we can, yeah.
correct.
We haven't spent any of our own money really. Early on, do we spend on supplies and materials, or do we send that all in too, Craig?
No, that's what I'm saying, Kathy, like whatever we sent into him,
Oh, okay, whatever.
Oh,
you
yeah.
send-
Yeah, I don't
Sure.
know, it's
Yep.
exactly like what is our chunk of money, even getting reimbursement, like what we spent to get reopened.
Sure, I'll send that to you tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a couple things if I may. One, I want to thank again Craig and Kathy and the team for, I'll disagree with a very clear budget. I think Mr. Ferrera will agree with me that the budget that we get now is light years beyond what was being used in 2012 when we arrived. So thank you for the level of detail and the updates that we get at every meeting. The other thing that I will address, because again, I just don't, well, there's a couple different misstatements that I think need to be cleared up. And I think we should all kind of take offense to this. I'll go back to the team piece. Let's be clear to the public. The only reason why this school committee, the 5 of us, are not meeting in person is because we have a member, because we allow choice, we have a member that does have a compromise proven health concern and needs to be virtual, and we don't have the technology to do a mixed delivery to have equal communication back and forth between all 5 members. So it's not a matter of us being opposed to it. It's an inability under a mixed delivery, two-way communication. So that is the difference. And I think it's important to be clear, and I don't appreciate when people attempt to mislead on that. The third and final thing I just want to address.
Joel, not to interrupt you, but if I can just clarify that, I got to disagree with that a little bit. It was the sum of money that would have got us set up to go virtual.
Right.
Remember,
So we don't own the equipment. We don't own the equipment. Right.
If it was a couple.
Correct.
Joel,
Correct. Yeah, you broke up a little bit, but I think you were saying that, yeah, if it was an affordable price, then I think we all would have said, yes, let's do it. And Karen would have been able to maintain her distance as needed, and we could have been in person if chosen. And
why is that person continuing to imply that this committee is choosing to not meet in person and not accommodating my needs? I don't understand it. It's been made clear that person knows about it, but they continually undermine what this committee has done for me in meeting my needs and making this a team effort. But I don't understand why that person continually tries to undermine your efforts and what you've done for me.
I hope you don't mind, Karen, that I just
not at all. It's I'm befuddled by it. I don't know what I don't know. I don't.
Politics is one thing, but at some point we got to draw the line. I don't care who is aligned with who or what have you, but every one of us got to draw the line, and that person has access to answer those questions. That person knows, Mr. Chona sat on the school committee with that person in 2010, and I can tell you the budget, that was a mess that we took over through the Budget Commission in 2012 was nothing compared to what we have today. So, I think to belittle and diminish the work that Craig and his team in this administration does is an injustice. I'm sorry, and I'll end with this. Multiple times I've heard this rumor, and I'm going to squash it right now. The school committee, the school department, the superintendent is not planning to privatize the maintenance and custodial staff. Please stop scaring the employees with this nonsense. So, I'll say that I've addressed it, and I thanked a couple of individuals that actually asked me directly. But because it came from different ends, different subgroups at different occasions, it obviously needs to be addressed. So let it be on the record. It's never been a point of discussion. There is no appetite for it. And, you know, every one of our employees should be able to eat dinner at night and know that we're not trying to find a way to eliminate their jobs. So that's it. Thank you.
Anything else? No other announcements. So we'll have a meeting next Tuesday, the 1st of September, 6 o'clock, to discuss the reentry. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.